welcome to Food for Thought episode 16. Today we are here to talk about receptivity, perspective, love letters from the universe, duality, philosophy, and many other things. I'm here with Beena, and we are also together in the Conscious Creators community that some of you watch on Thursdays. And so this will give you a bit of a insight into us and not just all the things that we all do and love talking about. So Beena, would you like to introduce yourself?
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you everyone for being here. You guys are always supporting for me, so thank you so much. First thing, I just a disclaimer that as you guys already know that English is my second language, and somehow my writing skills advanced relatively more than my speaking skills. So you might feel that wrong prepositions, or sometimes you guys say, oh, the wrong grammar also. So please forgive me for that and be here with me. So that's the very first thing. So my name is Beena, as you guys all know. And I'm a compassionate assistant and also a facilitator. I do work with people who are already my friend, and I know them and they know me. And by compassionate facilitator and assistant, I mean that I do provide a nurturing environment where people who know their work, who know and who have all the skills already acquired, but they need something like a human soundboard, or sometimes they just need someone who can understand what they are doing. And sometimes they need someone to just share different perspectives. So this is something I do provide to people who I work with. This is what I do. Also, I'm a writer. I'm also a poet and also aspiring artist. Also, I call myself now, because I accept what my friends gave me a title of reluctant astrologer. So I do write columns of abstract astrology also.
Awesome, yeah, and you are a good facilitator. I've heard from many people, and I'm hoping to maybe talk to you about guiding me, because yeah, that is one thing. Like when everything's going around in your head, it's really hard to move forward with things. And I love the fact that you spoke about your English. What I find funny is I live in Portugal. Portuguese is a very precise language. But English isn't so precise. Yeah, you get pernickety people who are fussy about it, but actually if you go to England, people don't speak very good English. It's the truth. I would say the majority. No, it's one of those amazing languages that can just be pronounced in so many ways that it doesn't matter. And yeah, and you're a writer, and writing you find easier or better than you find your English is better in writing than speaking?
Actually, I fall in love with this language because my father used to speak this language and he used to write this language. He passed away in my early age, so I didn't get a chance to. But as a typical daughter-father relation, I was so inspired by the hero I was having as my father there. And because of him, I was striving to learn this language. But the circumstances were not very positive for this in the beginning, in the early life, and then I came online, and then it was a big, huge transformation for me right there. And I started learning this language by communicating with my Facebook friends. This is how I learned this language. This is how I started writing about it. So my expressions are more natural in this language. As compared to my mother tongue. I don't know why I cannot do poetry in my own language. I cannot write things when I really want to explain something. English is my savior.
Right, I love that. I think it is quite a good language for description. I mean, I prefer it to more Latin-based languages like I speak here. And yeah, it's funny how being online definitely helped me, but I write what I thought was the right thing to say in Portuguese, for example, then I go to Google Translate and just like check it out and then learn more things as I was going. And yeah, this world has opened us up to so many people being online, and as we're seeing out there. So you said your father spoke English, did he?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And he said that you should learn English. It was a good thing to
No,
do.
he didn't said anything, but I saw him growing up when I was a kid, because he passed away when I was 5. But I saw him as this was the first memory that he is reading books and he is writing and he's speaking with other people in English. And that was something like really that, okay, this is what my father do. Very typical inspiration from father daughter thing. And I got like, okay, yes, I want to learn this. I want to copy him. That was the idea.
Mm.
And this is how I started. But it was not possible before I came online, because in Pakistan, mostly we speak Urdu and some regional languages. And my school, in my school, it was not very positive environment for the language skills, because they just give you lessons and you just read. So I was able to understand a bit, but not much. And speaking, no, impossible. So I came online because of a tragedy, a kind of a trauma happened in my life. I was doing my software engineering, and then I got scholarship, and I was doing my specialized diploma in computer networking, and it was about networking and security. And the final thesis, the final project, we were part. So my partner just submitted my project as her, and I was just standing there in the final moment with empty hands. So that was a huge trauma, because all my education, all the investment my family was doing, and all the efforts I was putting in was coming to nothing. And it was like, oh, and that was so traumatic, not because that I lost everything, but because of the awareness that people can be different what they portray. That was the biggest shock for me at that time. And that trauma was very huge. So I just confined myself in a room, and I spent 2 years just inside my house, not communicating much with other than my family members. And so I came online, and I was just searching, but not on social media. I was just surfing on internet day and night. What I was searching, I had no idea. So then I went to, somehow I got into this cool stuff. At that time, it was like Illuminati and other stuff. I know that was very cool. And I was exploring that. But then I realized that this is not something for me. And then I got a word, and that was consciousness. And,
Right.
And that word was not getting into my mind. And 4 months, I didn't search nothing other than consciousness. And it was impossible for me to understand what they are talking about. But whenever I read something from someone, it was completely different to the other one. And then I was like, okay, so I decide somehow, just to console myself, I said, okay, because I don't have skills in this language, so that's why I'm not able to understand consciousness. So I just concluded, and I said, okay, so now I need to work on my language skills so I can understand consciousness. Because that word's become a nightmare for me. Every now, like 24 hours, this was my thought. What is consciousness? What these guys are talking about? They are writing books, but I'm not able to understand.
Yeah.
And and that now I realize that universe actually gave me the hardest question ever as my first question ever to explore. So my journey starts in a kind of like a backward way. I started from the hardest question ever, and then gradually coming back to the simple one. And that was something I say now I feel that, okay, it was a biggest love gesture from the universe to give me that question, because it opens up so many things in my life, and it changes completely my path, my whole understanding of life, understanding of myself, and everything around me also. So that was the first thing.
Well, I think that's awesome. And I think, like, for me, like, working backwards through what you said was like sometimes the biggest questions lead us to the most exciting journey, is the best way I can put it. There are so many perspectives. And I think consciousness is just one we're always going to be investigating. There's so many layers to it from my own experience. But what I took from your story was how what happened was quite traumatic for you. Yeah. Even though you didn't almost like admit defeat, would be the word I was saying. So you went looking for answers. You're like, right, what can I do about this? What can I do now? You kept moving, and that trauma led you to something better, would you say? Or
No, actually, the trauma just smacked me down, and I was just isolating myself in my room because my self trust was completely shattered. Because the idea of people, for me, the most or the biggest inspiration in my life are humans. I just love people, and I just get inspired from their behavior, from their being. And that was the first, okay, not first, but virtually you can say that the most intense experience of the people and their behaviors in a very negative way. And I was not able to understand because the person used to call her my best friend. And that was like, wow, this could be, this whole thing was beyond my understanding at that time, that this could
yeah.
be even possible, because I was raised in a very protected environment. So everybody around me was so good. I'm blessed in that regard because everybody around me was so positive. So for me to understand, to comprehend some ideas other than my usual surrounding was impossible. So I was kind of naive in this sense because I had no idea that this could be even possible. So when she did that, I was not able to understand that. And I was trying to figure out what I did wrong, instead of just saying that, okay, yes, I was not being very observant, and I just, okay, made a wrong decision and move on. I was just keep asking myself what I did wrong, how this could even be possible. And I was haunted by this thing that this experience could manifest in my life, because that was very, very intense for me. So 2 years, and I was just sitting and just looking at the screen, no social media. But then I read somewhere, many times it was happening that they were saying that to read more, like our Facebook page, or like come to our Facebook group. And I said, okay, so I'm going to create a Facebook account. And I did. And for 2 years, I had no comment, no like, no friend, just create an account to read more. And then
Right.
someone hacked my account.
Oh no.
Yes. A hacker from Morocco, he came in my life and he hacked my account. He made himself my friend. And then he sent friend requests to some of my friends. They are still my friend. And they were his friend. And he sent them requests. They become my friend. And I was surprised by that. What is happening in my life? From where I'm getting these type of friends? Because I was not paying attention to Facebook at all. So I was just wondering, like, okay, it's a magic happening. Why these people are coming? And then he became my friend and asking me that, okay, so what's going on, Beena? And I was not realizing that he's a hacker. And I was telling him that, will you please help me to understand that how these people are becoming my friend? Oh, he says, okay, I'm so busy. I will teach you later. And I was like, okay. And then I met another one of his friend, our mutual friend. And he says, Beena, something is wrong because this guy is a hacker. I know him. He's a very good guy, but he's also have some suspicious activities. So be careful. So he actually saved my life. So then I blocked him. And then I see that all other friends, thanks to him, thanks to my hacker, that he actually become a bridge between so many good people. Because through him, via him, I met such an amazing people in my life. Such an amazing
Wow.
people.
That's like a very rare, yeah, positive hacker. There's a comment here. And also,
Exactly,
yeah,
exactly.
that's it. I think like the world is, I think this is one of the things is I'm learning about faith is, you're talking about what happened with your friend. And I think they're like,
Yes.
it is quite an eye opener. I had a similar experience in 2020. Like I definitely didn't grow up in a place where I trusted everyone or anything, but I was very selective about the people who I was friends with. And then I moved out here, and generally in Portugal, nearly everyone I'm meeting is trustworthy and great person. And then I got introduced to somebody through one of my friends who I assumed to be of the same character as we all were. And we made a business agreement, and then he didn't come through the business agreement. And actually, what I learned was the most energy draining and painful experience was causing me the most pain was that I expected people to have the same morals as me.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and that was actually the thing that was, once I don't expect people and more get to know people, suddenly I'm not in pain as much because I'm a little bit more cautious, but I can still be myself. But I must remember, hold on, take more time before you go into agreements with people. And I mean, like, the good thing for you is that's not your karma. The bad thing for her or him, I didn't know, is it's their karma. And it does happen. I've also got a very similar story that my stepdad, he wrote a musical and he spent most of his life writing this musical from his 20s or from 17 until he was in his 60s when he released it. And he released it with his best friend. And his best friend took it over to the States to produce it and to do the whole show. And but my stepdad couldn't make it to the States with him, so he trusted him to go with it. Well, he went out to the States and told everyone it was his. Even though my stepdad had written this whole musical, we're talking 40 years of work. And somebody turned around and said, oh, it's too late. By the time he found out, it was too late. It had been out. The guy had taken all the credit for it and everything. Yeah. So it's eye-opening, but everything happens for a reason, huh?
For a
And
reason.
yeah.
I was in that trauma for years, and I was continuously looking for my mistake, continuously looking for her mistakes also, that okay, what she did, she was a bad person and all these things. That was natural, and it was coming to me because that moment when I was running from my institute to my home on road and crying out loud was very traumatic for me, and I was not able to get out of that trauma. But last, yes, you can say that, okay, 1.5 years back, I had something like a perspective shifting. We will come back to the power of perspective shifting now. The same incident and same thing happened. And I was like, wow. So now it all makes sense why this happened to me. Because before that, I was refusing all the answers from the universe. Sorry, no, I put a lot of effort into that. I was investing a lot of money and energy and everything, my whole reputation, my family's reputation on stake because, oh, she is doing something. So it was quite a predictable future thing. I was a topper and I was also getting the scholarships. And after that, I was not even able to touch the keyboard or a mouse. It was that traumatic for me.
Right.
I was not able to do anything. But then I opened my computer because my friends were forcing me, and I started just surfing on internet. And from there, I got consciousness, and then the whole journey that hacker came. And after that, so many things happened. I was working at Arts Council, and I was facilitating backstage, and that was again a very, very eye-opening experience for me. So many colorful people there. I met artists. I saw their lows and highs. I saw that how the transformation actually happened in just 3 feet or a 2 feet space, backstage and on stage. The transformation and the human ability to transform themselves. This is so amazing. This is so brilliant how we can actually do that. We don't consider it. We don't acknowledge it that we do have this ability, but actually we can transform in just one step, physical one step. I have experienced that. I saw people crying, literally crushing because of so many reasons behind the stage. Backstage, it was happening. But when it comes to their role and their prompt, just one step, and they are laughing and they're cracking jokes and doing and singing and dancing and everything. And after that, the intensity, of course, goes down. So that was, again, a very big lesson for me that we have this ability, humans have this ability to transform themselves. We don't want to do that. We sometimes don't acknowledge that. We don't actually grasp this idea that we can do this completely. Otherwise, it's in complete capacity and ability in human beings.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like you said, the acting is a very good example there, because one of the best ways to overcome anything is to start. Yeah, to start doing it. You want to be happier, start being happier. Start making a choice. Find a way to be happier. You want to overcome a trauma, face it. I mean, like, I can relate to the computer thing, actually, and I work on computers all the time. So I managed to get myself into right. My business was always good, but I was working with a lot of clients I was struggling with, and email started to trigger me. opening my email account in the morning. I was like, no, there's going to be another one of these emails that's so long, that takes me so long to respond to. And by the end of 2019, I was actually literally having panic attacks when I'm opening my email, but going, it's going to be all right. And every time it was, you know, but it was still there. It was still there. And it's those things that we have to work through. So
Yes.
what, out of interest, what were the first things you started writing then?
I started writing about my own experiences because my mentor, or I call him my best friend, Alan Hovey, he just said, Beena, because he in his life, he never actually read anything other than nonfiction, because he believes in that. Okay, it should be real. It should be just your experience. So he says, whatever you are going to write, it must be your own experience, observation, or understanding. Nothing other than that. And I don't completely agree with that, because even I feel that the imagination is also somehow people do experience that. But his insist on that actually forced me to start writing my observation in my culture, in my surroundings. And the first experience was for me when I was sitting at my the most biggest, you can say that, very first few months. I was sitting at the bench in front of the gate of my gym. I was in the early morning, I was just sitting there. And I saw that waves after waves, like waves, women were coming into that gym. And in Pakistani culture, 99% of the women were completely covered. So I was just observing them. That was my first day. I was sitting and waiting for the gym to open. And they were coming like, okay, different sizes, different ages, different colors and everything, but all were all covered. And they were, I could see their sneakers, the flashy sneakers and different types of, and they are coming in and running. And I was like, wow, so everyone is covered. I'm feeling a bit weird, but okay, some of them were not covered. When I went inside in the locker room, I saw the transformation again, because they actually just start removing their abayas. I saw that really, really amazing sportswear there. And that was a huge, I was like, wow, okay. So, and then these women were so, and then when the gym opened and the music and the dance and I saw them, that how they were observing, how self-aware they were. I was a weird one there because I was not paying attention to these type of things. And I was like, I saw that those women, they were actually being aware of the slightest difference in their body with, to their desired shape and size or weight. That was like, wow. And I started writing that, okay, I was feeling like a philosopher or a fisherman sitting on a shore and observing the waves coming. And I just wrote something about that. And that was very hilarious also. But after that, these women actually just become aware of my naivety in this sense. And then they came and they gather around and they says, okay, in the locker room, they says, okay, so Beena, okay, what's your name? And I said that, and he said, so why don't you care about yourself? And I was like, I'm taking care of myself. And then says, no, you have to do this. And they start sharing, like all the mothers from the history just come gather around me, and they were like, okay, you have to do this, you have to do this, apply this on your skin and do this for this. And I was so overwhelmed by that, because that was not expected. But again, the awareness was why I was attracting this kind of motherly feelings from women. And I was like, wow. So then I start paying attention how we attract people in our life, how we do attract certain type of people in our life. That was again coming back to the same thing. So this is how my journey started, because once you start paying attention that why universe is giving you few things, like, okay, certain specific kind of like situation and people and incident in your life, if we pay attention, we can understand that universe is communicating with us.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think so some of the guests may not have seen, but we had a conversation the other day, and I wonder whether that relates back to the trauma that you were talking about, you know, because you're attracting motherly figures again, and you were saying about how you had a childhood trauma, like baby trauma, to do with being fed. So yeah, I know it is funny how these things happen, isn't it? And then, like you were saying, you're really I love what you said. So he only read non-fiction, yeah, and he then
Yeah.
only wrote from his own perspective without quoting others. Yeah, I think.
No, not quoting others. Yes, you can quote others, but he says that, okay, it has to be your experience first. It has to be
Okay.
from your side, what you understand, how you understand.
Yeah, beautiful.
Not something like a fairy tale stories. Yes.
I think it's really important that, because when you're putting pen to paper, you're really getting things out of your mind and really getting clarity. Whether it's pen to paper or keyboard to screen, it's just enlightens things. So, are you still with us? Yes, you are. Okay, because your camera froze for a second.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and that's really, were you a philosophical person before you started writing your philosophical experiences in English?
I don't know, because this is something I feel that it is inherent. We all are. It is
Mm-hmm.
just that where we put our emphasis on, or by force of circumstance, it happens sometimes. We are not really conscious or being aware of that. Sometimes universe just creates some situation where a specific aspect of our personality or of ourself becomes more highlighted.
And that's awesome. And you do quite a lot
So
of.
by God, it just become. Sorry.
That's all right. Carry on. Sorry, you broke up a bit for.
Okay, so I was just saying that if I feel that personally, we all, like, okay, as human, we all have all the capabilities and abilities, but it is just happened to depends on that, okay, in which circumstances we get into. Of course, we also need to have some receptivity towards that, so that universe actually provide you a situation, then your specific aspect of yourself become highlighted. So this thing happened to me also. I was not aware of what philosophy is. I was a complete computer person.
Right.
I was a system analyst, and I just loved that. Before that, I was trying to be a textile designer, but it was not possible. So the philosophy was not even, I was not even aware of this term, this word, till I met Sil. So the day I actually got out of my project-based job at Arts Council, and I was just wondering that, okay, what I'm going to do today, because for months I was busy there day and night, and this is the first day. And I saw Sil's ad in Sassy, or I think it was in my newsfeed, that he was looking for some post-beta testers. And I just said, okay, yes, it looks interesting. And I said, yes, I want to be. And then he says that, okay, let's talk. And then we were on Zoom, and then we discussed, and it was mind-blowing for me. It was mind-blowing. The first experience with him on Zoom was like, in itself, I could say that was a transformation right there, because he made me aware of the moreness, the philosophy.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, and that's what it really is. It's just about thinking things through and gaining your own perspective in a lot of ways. Always asking, what more is there? What more is there? I think it's one of the things I've done a lot in my life is ask questions.
Yes,
Yeah,
asking questions. Love
yeah,
notes from the universe.
yeah. So exactly, and so that brings me on. So we're talking about some of the things you've written. Now you've got some awesome post types. You just mentioned one there, which I was going to end with, but let's do that one first. So, what is Love Letters from the Universe?
Okay, so this is something just came when I was just paying. Okay, you can say that I was observing and I was paying attention to that how karma works, because that was the biggest question. Everybody was saying that, okay, oh, I have learned my lesson. Okay, come on, karma, come on, universe, I have learned my lesson. Stop repeating this thing again and again in my life. And one of my friends, she asked me, or she was a participant of Way of Impeccability. She asked me that, Beena, what do you think about that? That why karma actually just not stop giving us the same lesson, though we are saying that, okay, we have learned our lesson. And I was thinking, and I said, wow, this is very interesting, because karma will not stop repeating its lesson till we submit a new answer. And that was the beginning of this love letters from the universe, because karma actually doesn't stop giving you the same lesson until you submit a new answer in the same specific situation.
Nice.
You have to go back into the same situation, almost identical situation, and you have to submit your new answer. Then only then you can get out of that loop of this karma thing.
Right. Oh, yeah, I love the way you put that. So that's really, because it's one of those, people do ask a lot about karma and
That was the biggest question for me.
The law of action. So when you face the test again, you have to give a different answer. And or when you face the situation,
and you will face the same situation, same test again and again, because if we assume that okay, yes, I have learned my lesson from this previous situation, I'm not going to be in that situation. Sorry, this is not the things work actually, because you will be in that situation, because the universe will test you, and karma will put you in that situation again, no matter willingly or not. You have to be in that situation. This is at least what I observe in many experiences, and also some observation from other people and their experience, that no matter what, we try to avoid the same situation. This is we say that, okay, I have learned my lesson, I'm not going to be like, for me it was like, okay, I'm not going to trust blindly. Okay, but this is not how karma will learn that, okay, I have learned my lesson. Karma will create the situation again where I will trust, and then now I will show that, okay, no, I am trusting without trusting. Like, okay, I'm going to practice my capital T trust here, trusting without trust. I'm going to be impeccable. I'm not going to just blindly fall into this thing. I will trust, but I will also keep my boundaries intact.
Nice.
So this is something I was blown away with my own awareness that, okay, yes, this is how karma actually works, because people get so devastated with this thing that I have learned my lesson. I said that, okay, I'm not going to be in that situation. Sorry, if you have learned this lesson, you will submit a new answer to the same situation.
Yeah, I mean, something I can really relate to. I spend most of my life repeating the same situations year after year, and then spreading it out to 2 or 3 years. But ultimately, I hadn't made a better choice about the way forward and how to handle it differently. Absolutely. And so another one of your articles is, or one of your posts is, the verbal selfie. So
yes.
What's the verbal selfie?
Okay, it's a very, you can say that, a sneaky way to saying that, okay, I'm going to share whatever I want to. Because when we take selfie, it is about us. I don't know, I'm okay, if nobody can make any judgment about, I can make a pout, I can make funny faces, or I can just try to be a whatever I want to. So this is the liberty of taking selfie. I know that it's not a very accepted kind of idea with mature people, but I do encourage my friends also that, okay, try to take a selfie. And they were like, come on, Beena, what an absurd idea. But actually, this is getting out of your comfort zone also. Mostly people who live in their heart or in their mind, they don't want to look at mirror in a different way. They don't want to see themselves other than their comfort zone. Be precise, be sophisticated, be humble, but why not just go and try something else? And especially I'm saying about selfie because it is about you, not to posting pictures for others, but just taking a selfie and look at yourself, how uncomfortable you were in that moment, or how comfortable you were. It's a self-observation mechanism. I know that people have so many reservations about that, but still, it is just to explore itself, just to explore it, and you will see how much value you can get out of it. So I called it selfie because it is my expression, my understanding, and I'm going to share it with the world.
I like it a lot, actually. Yeah, I'm really glad I asked you that. Sorry, because you did mention it the other day, but yeah, I think it's beautiful because, yeah, many people take selfies, but selfies can be misleading, is the best way I'll put it. They may be the way you're wanting to look today and everything, but yeah, I think like writing verbal selfies, everybody should try it a couple of times a week, get what's really on your mind out there and share it with people. Connect with people.
Yes, and also we can be in someone else's shoes and try to do that. Like in selfie, usually we take filters and we do take like avatars and all these things. Why not in our verbal selfie? Okay, just try to be someone else. Get out of your comfort zone. Make some hilarious, funny things. Make some really okay content or whatever you want to. So I can be in someone else's shoes for a moment, for a few moments, and I can experience that, and then I can write my experience about that experience, my
Mm.
understanding about that experience. So it's a liberty and it's a freedom, and I like that because it's a very kind of non-serious thing. So nobody actually going to make any objection on that. You can write whatever you want to. So that's why I call it verbal selfie.
Yeah, and so to people watching who maybe don't write so much, what would be the one reason you'd recommend people should write more?
Writing something is actually engaging yourself on a many level. It is not just saying things and okay, throwing in the air that okay, yes, I said something, but I can go back. Once we write something, we do go back to that. And because our, of course, a lot of the science also involved into that, because we use our hands, and mostly our prominent hand with this thing, when we write something, it is more deliberate. And when we choose our words, and when we edit that, right, just before this session, I was re-editing my own post to make as my first Substack post there. And when I was editing, I was like, wow, still it's a really amazing experience, because it is not only about editing my text, but it is actually observing how my growth is, and so many other things also involved into that. So once you write down something, you always have something which is a proof that where you were at that time. Going back, it's a beautiful exercise, going back to those things and see that how you were feeling at that time.
Yeah, I couldn't
And
agree
it's
more.
and especially when we write something about the value we get something from some experience, it is going back to that, reading that again, is actually getting extracting value again and again and again. And
Yeah.
same thing I say about acknowledgement, because I want to add that, because I see that people avoid acknowledging the value and the moreness they get from their life coaches. Sometimes they get a bit reluctant, a bit hesitate to mention that okay, this thing I learned from this person or this that person. And also some impeccable coaches also avoid that, and they said okay, I don't want that, okay, because it's an ego thing, so please don't mention me, just forget it and take it as your own. Still is the biggest example in that. I do a bit, I have a different of opinion here, because I said acknowledging someone else is not about their ego, it's about
Hmm.
my ego. When I repeat something, when I acknowledge, actually I relive those moments where I was extracting value. So it's an emphasis mechanism. For me, it is about myself. When I'm acknowledging someone like, okay, Matt, you provide me this opportunity, I'm going to acknowledge you again and again, because this is something I will get the value. I will get connected to this particular experience again and again by acknowledging you. And it will give me more strength, more learning, more understanding. That's why I said that, okay, that life coaches should be a bit more open towards appreciation and acknowledgement.
Yeah, appreciation and
They should feel
acknowledgement, really
comfortable
good.
with that.
Yes,
They should
definitely.
feel
And
comfortable with that.
do you journal out of interest or just your posts?
Mostly by post. I do
Okay.
write because I'm making some programs and some courses also, but mostly these are my posts. Before that, I was not even editing all these things, just throwing out, because okay, if I will edit, I will find it, I will get into that, okay, no, it's not appropriate, it's not good enough, and all these nonsense. So I was just writing
Mm.
directly on Facebook. But then I still actually said that, no, Beena, this is not going to happen. Just go and edit first. And then I start getting into habit. And I'm really thankful to him that he taught me that how to edit. Okay, I'm learning, but, and of course, it needs a lot of improvement, but still I got so much out of it. This
Mm.
editing your text or editing anyone's text is actually detaching, practicing detachment, because I'm writing something. When I'm writing, this is my creation, this is me, this is who I am. But when I'm editing it, I need to get disconnected with that thing and read it as a
Mm.
reader, as a viewer.
Mm. Yeah.
This practice, we can actually expand it to our whole life, in every aspect of our life.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I journal not as often as I used to, but I find it really powerful to look back sometimes. like New Year's Eve, for example, when everyone's busy
Yes,
doing all their things, I'll come up and I'll just flick through my journal for the year and I go, wow, how far have I come this year? It is
exactly.
quite amazing, yeah, to be able to acknowledge yourself, to really have that reflection. And there's a nice comment here as well, actually, from Gaia, which said it's expressing gratitude with no ego involved. Yeah,
Yes,
especially when you're writing for yourself, and you're
yes,
just writing from the heart and open mind, not thinking what do people want to hear or what are people going to think about this. Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's just the freest form of expression.
absolutely, absolutely. Thank
I
you, Gaia.
found, yeah, I found it very good for, like you were saying about, you start getting on paper and you realize you're not clear on something. You're like,
Yeah.
that doesn't make sense. Oh, okay, it's more like that. Yeah. And I like what you said about the editing as well. It's something that I've just started doing myself is pay more attention to the grammar and the words than actually editing myself, so to speak, changing what I've said or going, that's not going to, unless it's not understandable. Yeah. Unless sometimes I
Yes.
write and it's not very understandable. So there's actually a question here. So Ramsey says, returning to karma, he didn't get what karma has been for you. Is it some kind of universal punishment?
No, 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 never, never. I never feel that. Personally, I'm going to share my experience and my understanding. For me, actually not. We are not able to understand how universe is communicating with us. We need to get attuned with that because it's not a punishment. Punishments are what? Okay, I was preparing for something and I didn't get my desired result. So this is my karma.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, something, okay, I got a punishment. No, it is not. Actually, you were not completely aligned with your inner call or your true call. So universe is just providing a detour, an opportunity to get a detour. And I said, okay, yes, you need to change. This is not something, or this is not how you need to do something. So for me, it's not a punishment thing. I don't know. Maybe it is just lack of my understanding. I accept that and I'm open to learn more about that.
Mm. Yeah, no, I agree. I think like there's karma's got two sides to it. It's just like there's these lessons that we've come here to learn, and these things that we must learn to evolve in our lives, and like we to become the person, the soul that we've become here to become. But there's also the energy we put into the world.
Yes.
So the energy we put in is what we get back. Generally, is the way I look at it.
This is
What,
very, very interesting from us that from us, I'm saying that like as human, at least for me, that we love to talk to human, sorry, universe. And we say that, oh, come on, universe, I was just doing that. I was putting my heart out. We do pray. Sometimes we do meditation. It is all just way of communicating with the universe for me. But it's a one-way communication we do. We never actually look for that how universe is going to communicate with us. Where's the answer? So we need to pay more attention to once you are asking a question. That's why I say that questions are love notes from the universe, because once we ask, once we get curious about something, the universe put every effort to assist us to get a resolution of that.
yeah.
But we just sometimes we don't understand that I was curious about something. That's why people say that, okay, don't be judgmental about other people, don't get curious and all these things, because where we put our attention, universe just assume that okay, this is where his or her interest is, this is what she or he wants. Okay, and then they try to actually explore it for you. But
Mm,
sometimes the thing is just a can of worms. So we said, oh, come on, like why this thing is happening in my life? I was curious about that. I was paying attention
yeah.
in a
Well,
direct or an indirect way.
yeah, and I love that. And I think that's something you said about, when we're talking to the universe, really, we're talking to ourselves. And that's the thing is, it's there and it's answering us, but we have all the answers anyway. And I think it's very true. It's often we can keep talking until we say the right thing. So we could keep saying, this is unfair, this is unfair. And it's like, till we say, I'm willing to face whatever you send my way. And still be happy about the life that I've been given and things like that, then it turns it around. Suddenly it's like, right, that thing that you've been facing all the time, you've seen it from another perspective, you're not being the victim to it anymore, and now it's time to move forward.
For me, it is like, okay, if we need to understand the difference of energy, my energy and the universe's energy. So we need to understand that the difference between that. My response or my voice would be like, okay, it will reach till this pitch, but the universe's energy and response will be like reaching that pitch, which might not be understandable by me. I might not be able to perceive that in a more understandable way. So the situation comes in our path, in our life. Sometimes they get more intense because with the intensity we were craving for, when the universe responds in the same energy, it is way much more intense than us, than our energy. So we get
Mm.
overwhelmed by that, like, oh my God, this is so intense, this is so painful, this is so overwhelming. Because you were in communication, and then I'm amazed by our ability to be so confident that we start communicating with this enormous energy of universe. And when it responds, be like, oh my God, what is happening in my life? So we are asking universe. When you are asking, the universe is going to respond.
Yeah, you see, I mean, I don't get like what I call responses. It's not like opening my messenger the next day and it's there. But what I do tend to get is good guidance on what to do next, to the point that I get the response. You know, to the
Yes.
point that whatever I ask for, I get the response, but it's not
Or
an hour
maybe,
to suddenly
yes,
fall into place.
yes, or maybe we'll say that, okay, I need an ability to understand the response. Maybe the universe is responding right there, but I was not able to understand and pay attention, because it's a very complex and sophisticated way of communication. Because we both are different entities. I don't know how to articulate it other than this way, that, okay, we are completely different entities, a human being and the universe in the energy level. Of course, we all are same, but we belong to each other. But when it comes to energy, it's a completely different measure of that, scale of that.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. Now we got to quite a few comments here. Now, one of them is quite interesting. So this is from Amanda. Um, Now, isn't it possible that these days people are sharing far too much of themselves and everything else? It gets to the point where it has all become meaningless. I'm not saying that is the way I feel or she feels. It is simply an observation. People have become desensitized to everything outside of themselves and have become very self-focused, even to the point that being focused on others is focusing on oneself. Now, I mean, what do you think about that? I've got thoughts on that.
Okay. I feel that personally, yes, we do get immune to repetition. Our mind get immune to sometimes repetition, because the load of information we have, we all assume that we understand these things. I am sitting here and I said, okay, I know everything, because I see like tons of memes, life transforming, life changing memes every day. I don't know how many, and posts, and people are talking about, like I am talking about right now. People are just getting into that, okay, I know everything, whatever you are going to say, I know that, where she is coming from, or where he is coming from. So I know that. Once in our mind we say that to ourselves, that I know that, we actually just close that door. And then we
Mm,
say that, oh yes, now everything is just showering over me, I don't care about that, it's not penetrating inside me. Because we were saying that at the first place, we were saying that, I know already.
mm,
What you are saying, I know it is. So this immunity actually, okay, it's a 50-50 thing. We do create for ourselves also, including myself. Whatever you are going to say, I'm going to just be like, okay, yes, I know that. I know what he's talking about. This idea is actually makes us immune to any other idea. Otherwise, the wisdom or the knowledge or everything is actually starting from the very first human being. It's the same thing. We
mm.
get in more sophisticated in our way of communication. The core is always there and the same.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, my personal thoughts on this are that really we all need to just share our stories, and people shouldn't get so, oh, I've heard it before, because there's always something. When you, as soon as you close your ears to what you're listening to, like, oh, I know, you miss the thing you don't know, is from my experience.
Exactly.
And there's the real lack of authenticity in life these days, where people are layers and layers of other people's stuff, let's call it. Yeah. And the thing they are dreaming of being and doing, for some reason they won't do because of all these layers. And this sharing that we're all doing is reigniting that flame inside of people and going, I remember when I used to like that. And as soon as we spark the memory, they're like, actually, that's what I want to do with my life. And yeah, you know, and it helps strip back the layers from my experience.
Yeah.
There is a lot of people sharing, but what I would say is they're not their authentic self in a lot of ways. There's a lot less authenticity than it would appear, although people are becoming more authentic and a bit more raw, which is what I aim to do with this show. No scripts, no nothing, just talking and going with the flow. But
Yes.
yeah, I think we should all, it's all part of the big shift for people, is that actually hearing people and hearing each other and listening to each other. You know, like, I'll give you, here's the example that comes to mind. How horrible is it how people treat grandma every time she tells you the story for the 10th time? You know, I'm always like, oh, you know, that's so great. I remember that one. Other people are like, bloody hell, she said this one 10 times. I mean, what's the point of putting that, you know, talk of karma. You're not putting nice energy. When you get old, that's what's going to happen to you, unfortunately. When I get old, everyone's going to be going, oh, he's so sweet. So there are a few more questions there.
Same. Also it's a limitation of our languages. Also, I'm not saying about any particular language. It's a limitation of language. It's a limitation of our communication skills, that we do get repeat things because we use the same words. We assume that our mind already perceive it as something I already know. Sometimes the perspective is completely different, but we are going to use the same words for that. So it's also because of the limitation of languages that we assume that we get this feeling that we know everything. But it's all about perspective. Which perspective actually other person is sharing with you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think really, like, from my perspective right now, if I hadn't have listened to a lot of people, I wouldn't have seen what I'm seeing now, which is a completely different world to the one I was living in even 2 or 3 years ago.
Yes.
You know, and that is from listening to people's stories, from getting out there, from, yeah, sometimes there was many times where I thought, I've heard this before. Oh, it's a person who's like that. And I stopped myself from doing that so I could be more open. And it's definitely really benefited me.
Yes, this is what capital R receptivity for me. And by the way, when I say for me, it is not like, okay, I'm downloading something. It is just, okay, yes, I heard something, I read something, I experienced something, I observed something. But for everything, what becomes my understanding, but it becomes my awareness, this is what I share with other people. And when I say that, okay, this is for me, which might not be the case for other people. So I just share what is right now for me. That's why I say that, okay, sharing is always in a present moment, and telling could belong to the past also, because I can tell you a story. I can tell you that, okay, yes, this was happening. Okay, this is how it was. But when I have to share, it needs to be right in this moment, my personal experience inside me.
Mm-hmm.
I need to own this. Otherwise, how can I share it? So to share something, even if it is just an understanding or awareness, it needs to be integrated in myself, in my being. That this is the only condition to share something. Otherwise, it's all telling.
Yeah, I mean, really, really crucial. So just in the comments, karma is a big topic, it would appear, and lots of people like to talk about karma. So, I mean, there is a bit of a conversation. Karma is good and bad. Yeah, I think we were definitely saying that it's well, good and bad is just labels. It's just things happening to us, is the way I look at this now. So,
Exactly.
yeah, I wouldn't really put good and bad. It's just experiential. I would think it's the consequence of our acting and being in the world can be positive or negative. That's the judgment we have. Yeah, I think it's saying a similar thing. We assume the universe wasn't hearing us now, and this is a very good point. It's we who aren't hearing or understanding.
Yes, we assume that.
Yeah, we're not listening to ourselves. And then, yeah, Ramsey says karma is generational as well as individual combination of attractions. It is what you download from the Akashic records. Yeah, or it's your birthright would be another way of saying that.
Yes. When group of people or like nations, sometimes people say that, okay, it's their nation's karma. Like, okay, yes, they all have done something wrong. I do understand about the collective things, like, okay, yes, because the collective gestures or collective understanding of something creates a collective energy also. So yes, it's not only about like, okay, it could be, I'm not negating it, it could be your generational karma, your national karma, or your group karma, your family karma, but it is also about the collective energy, what energy we are putting out as a family, as a group of people, as a nation, or as a generation, what kind of energy we were putting on collectively. So things can be I personally feel, even though I do had like, okay, those things in my past life, like in my life, when I was feeling like, okay, yes, universe being unfair with me, and I was like, okay, yes, how this could happen, like the first experience of like, okay, someone calling and behaving and acting like a best friend, and suddenly you were just standing empty handed because she robbed you. And that was like, how this could even happen. This is impossible, how people can have these two things, two behaviors, two personalities. And I was blaming karma for that. That universe was fair with me. I was putting so much effort, I was genuine, I was that. But actually it was, universe is not your mother. We do assume that it is going to behave like a nurturing, always pampering mother. Universe can be like your father also, who will kick you out if you are not behaving out of his house. Okay. Well, so be ready for that.
For sure, yeah. And I think, my experience, my understanding of it is we're not always here to experience just good things, as we call them. We're here to experience the whole spectrum.
Yes.
That's why we're feeding back the experience from 100% fear to 100% love and all the way in between. Yeah.
Absolutely. And mostly things happen just to make us aware of our own abilities. Like I was saying, that we all have this ability to transform ourselves in just one step. In just one step. We have this ability as a human, but I might not have this. I will like, no, I cannot do this. You will say, no, I cannot do this. So like suddenly I was in a cold, dark place, and very silent, very quiet. And suddenly I have just in one step, I have to face thousands of people in front of me with floods of light. I cannot do this, but people can do this. So it's an ability is inherent. So for everything, our ability is inherent, like trusting people, like understanding people and their behavior and preempting. It is all inside us already. But we are not aware. So sometimes universe just give a smack that, okay, you need to evoke this ability inside you. You have this. You have this. So now use it.
Yeah.
Let's give you a situation. Let's put you in a situation where you need to actually practice that and exercise this. And then this is what happened with me. As a girl, I was too naive for that. I need to be more thorough. That's it. And that was not my path also. So, okay.
Yeah, I think like the generational karma thing is quite obvious in a lot of ways if you look back. So I've been looking back at, like, specifically for myself in Europe, we've got thousands of years of repression and being told that we have to work, and and we talk about slavery in other countries and the things more recently. Well, when the Romans came through Europe, life was something else. And we do carry that generationally in a lot of ways, because that's the mindset that's passed down. Like other animals pass on the protect yourself genes. This is dangerous, that is dangerous. Well, we've got this same thing going on in all across Europe, and as most of the and other countries as well, and as most of the Americans came from Europe, so they probably got it as well. Is that we have to work for authority, or else we might get killed. We have to abide by authority, or else we might get killed.
This is very interesting and funny about humans, that okay, our consciousness, our awareness, our mind has evolved so rapidly and so much, but our body is actually not. Animals are more into this thing that their bodies actually adapt as in decades or centuries they evolve. But okay, not some like, okay, not every animal, but some. But humans are exactly the same. From the very beginning till now, we still do get affected by the change in temperature. We still need to get a shelter where to hide from rain and extreme weathers and all these things. So our body has a different kind of awareness. That body still wants to protect us itself. Our mind is evolved. We know that we are no more in that primitive era anymore, but our bodies are still there because it doesn't evolve. We still get affected by all these things. So we feel that danger. We still feel, our body still feel that danger because it doesn't in that level, at that level. So, okay, so mind is so much evolved. We know that. No, it's no more a cave time. We are not, we don't need to hunt and the food is not scarce anymore, but our body is still in that particular mindset. Its awareness is still the same. So it's a contradiction between the body and the mind. So that's why the defense mechanism, this preemptiveness, this primitive mindset still sometimes comes in, and we do feel scared. We get into that survival mode again and again because body has its own defense mechanism. It's still there.
Yeah, of course. And what are your thoughts on reprogramming that? So do you think it's possible? Do you think it's possible to reprogram the body using the mind?
Yes.
Yeah.
At certain level. Okay, because it has its own limitation, this is what my personal understanding, which could be totally wrong. But I feel that our bodies, because it doesn't evolve the way our minds has evolved, so it has its own limitation still. We don't have a protected shield over us. We didn't evolve that. We shouldn't develop that. So we do still get that those threats as a threat of survival. So we do get into that survival mode again and again. So what we can do is that because our mind has evolved so much, we can trick our bodies also. We can do this, but it needs a bit more sophistication. I feel that.
Yeah, you see, I think well, from my personal experience is that we have to gather new data, information, then we have to put it into action. And then we have to repeat that to the point that things change for us. Because like I've had depression, anxiety, addiction, and also had a lot of unhelpful ways of being. And then I've now been living in a foreign country for 20 years, adjusting to new climates and doing all these things. And I had to learn so many new ways of being, which completely changed my abilities to even function in this climate, you know? And now it's kind of natural to me, but I have been here nearly half my life. So we're getting there, getting close.
Yeah, few things are a bit tricky to deal with, like instinctual behavior, if I'm pronouncing it right. So
that was brilliant.
These things are a bit tricky to actually, because these are instincts, and then they are like very based in and are very core at a very fundamental level. So they are very tricky to actually do that. And this is where actually we need to put a new algorithm to change other things, because the other things are much easier to do that. Our instinct is to just be in our mother's womb and then just be safe and get nurture and get food and do nothing. This is what our instinct basic from where our awareness actually started. We were protected, we were being fed, we don't need to worry about anything, we don't need to do anything. That was the complete bliss point for us. That was the complete bliss state for a human being. And of course, by instincts, we want to be just like that. I don't want to do all these things. And if I have to do, I'm going to do it by effort. And that effort creates aggression.
Yeah, really.
Like, in a bit aggressive mood into this thing that, okay, yes, I'm going to win this, because it is not natural. Naturally, we all just want to just be in our mother's womb and just getting fed by and nurtured by and protected by.
That's kind of like our first conscious experience, and we're like, this is heaven on earth, let's say. And then we get put out in the real world. So I hope you don't mind, there's a ton of comments here. So but I'll give you something to start you off with is, Sil has said, what I want to know is what question Beena thinks Matthew needs to be asked.
I think that we are not asking questions. We are just sharing here, Sil. And
Yeah.
I just love his company because he is giving me full opportunity to discuss. And I just love this, the way he is doing this.
Oh,
But if you have something, please do ask.
yeah. If you got any hunts, I've got another 31 comments here, so it's gone a bit
Oh,
crazy.
okay.
Cher says she understands our point or your point. I see it as many may be sharing from a specific point in their journey. As for myself, I share my own experiences and hope it resonates with someone just starting. Yeah, likewise. That's what this show is kind of aimed at, is resonating with people, inspiring people to see that there's possibilities out there. Look at how Beena's turned her life around in a few years, from not even speaking English, from having her hard work stolen from her, and then to being one of the happiest smiling faces on the show, full of wisdom, speaking a whole new language and helping many other facilitators move forward with their amazing goals. And then, yeah, Amanda said the authenticity and non-authenticity gets cloudy. Yeah, well, that's where you have to practice your intuition. No, I'm joking, but yeah, I mean, it's it's impossible. You have to take everyone at face value, I think, and then see how consistent they are is the best way I can see with authenticity. If they keep changing their story, that's the best way, and keep changing to fit the crowd, then that's normally the thing. Sil said, sharing the self can be meaningless depending on the intent behind the sharing. If we write for others, then sharing can be self-promotion or trying to get sympathy, attention, etc. But if done with an earnest intent to gain
Absolutely.
clarity of self by seeing ourselves from a different perspective, yeah, absolutely. So I think, yeah, gaining clarity, looking at yourself, or hoping to encourage others and inspire others is definitely what writing's about. And I think it's really the superpower is when you stop judging yourself. And yeah, I mean, this something I teach people and I've started doing myself is just find out whether it's working or not. You know, just be you and get out there and say what you want to say, because until you do it authentically, I can't say that today. Authentically, thank you. Yeah, I was going to put some A's and some L's in there. Authentically, you will never find out if it's the right thing for you, if people have your message. If you're always trying to say what people want to hear or using AI, then you'll never really find your path. Like going back to the beginning. So yeah, Cher's overthought herself, frustrated herself, overthinking her communication skills. Yeah. Oh, and so Alex said that English is also his second language.
Okay.
And somebody mentioned cause and effect. The Bible teaches it throughout. Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. I mean, cause and effect is a big thing. Yeah, it's karma, cause and effect. Beena, do you believe we create our own path, or do you believe that we can be attuned enough and aware enough to follow the path laid out by the universe?
Who is asking this? This is a very
Cher. This is Cher.
Okay. I personally, this was a big question, Cher, and I was just thinking about this thing, that because how we actually manifest, and that was a question about the co-creation concept also. Because what I understand, that manifestation is not creation, it is just getting aligned with, is getting attuned with. So I feel that the universe in itself, in totality, is already complete, fully and wholly complete. What we do is we just get aligned with those things. And how we get aligned with any specific path or in any specific situation is, it depends on, at that time, my awareness, my understanding, my ability to comprehend that. So that situation, those opportunities, those life paths sometimes just come and we are not able to understand at that moment. But as per my understanding, believe it or not, in that very moment, we were able to actually do that. We might not be able to communicate it, that yes, we understand that. We negate our own understanding. Many of the times we say that, I was not able to understand that, but you were able to understand that, but you were not accepting that because the understanding was so overwhelming.
Yeah. Yeah. We have to give things time.
Exactly. And our
Yeah.
respect to ourselves, giving back to like due respect to your own understanding first. We understand things on a very different way. Like, okay, our body understand it in a less sophisticated way. Okay, if it feels overwhelmed, sometimes it just portray as a fear. Oh, I'm scared. But sometimes it is just an overwhelm. So we need to understand, we need to put our attention to ourselves first and understand that what my body is saying, that because it's a big deal for everyone, including me, that, okay, feelings and emotions, and I need to pay attention to my feelings, and my emotions are true to me, of course. It's a thing happening right now. I'm feeling it, I'm experiencing it. But how I'm communicating, how I am interpreting all these things, this is the case, and then we need to pay attention to that, because body is not very sophisticated in communication. So I might feel something which might be just an overwhelm, but I will interpret as fear. I was feeling scared at the time. No, you were not feeling scared, it was just overwhelm of that situation. Or sometimes it could be on many other things. So to understand the body's language, as Gab was saying about, like, okay, understanding your emotion, paying attention to yourself, it is very necessary, because we once we start paying attention to our emotions and feeling, we just carried away with that. It is not, I'm not saying that it is not true. Your feelings, your emotions are true for you in this moment, in that particular moment. But how you to actually understand that, that is a tricky question. We need to be very sophisticated into understanding those things.
Mm. Yeah, and absolutely. And I love the fact you pointed out that it's true for you right now. You know, it's very true, but we can, everything changes for us as life changes for us. I think it's a very interesting question that, I mean, is life predetermined or not? And I think it's more to do with who you are as a person than the journey itself is predetermined here. So your qualities, your natural sort of characteristics are predetermined, and you come to this earth and you suddenly absorb a load of other stuff to fit in because you're a little bit different, and then your journey is stripping it back. But all the stuff that goes with it, the whole 3D journey, is kind of up to you, I think. You know, you can make it as small or as big as you want. But the point is, the whole journey is going to be coming from where you are to getting back to who you were. That's kind of the only undetermined bit. So that's the path you're walking. But where you walk it
Yes.
and how you walk it, I think, is up to your imagination, really.
The universe, when I was saying that the universe in itself is completely and wholly complete, it is like, okay, like in our surroundings, we have mountains, we have trees, we have rivers, oceans, and everything, but not everybody is going to climb those mountains. Not everybody going to swim in that ocean. They are not going to choose this, but it doesn't mean that they don't exist. These things exist there. I can choose. So this is the same thing apply for me, in according to my understanding, for the universe also. My path is something, these were the possibilities. At what frequency I was vibrating at the time, I was somehow just choose that path, sometimes by the force of circumstance, because I was not able to communicate my understanding to myself. And I just choose what comes to me. So the possibilities, these things, everything are always, there is always a choice. And so always say that and emphasize on that there is always a choice. And I was like, okay, no, but that situation was completely stuck. Yes, that on surface, it might seem like that, okay, that is the dead end situation. I have no other option. But even making that choice to go into that situation deliberately is my choice. And then I will choose and I will go it and do it differently. So these things, the universe is just a compound of possibilities. Not every possibility, it can be a veil according to my ability. I will make choices according to my ability, my understanding, my awareness. But the world is just a matter of possibilities.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It is an absolute world of possibilities. I just think that, like, from my research and understanding over the last couple of years, that everything, let's use the term 3D world, in our world, and I actually like to call the Earth, and the world is what we've created on top of it, right? Is
Okay.
where we all live. But none
Okay.
of these things are only, well, the reason we can choose to have anything we want in this world, whatever we choose, whether it's more or less, yeah, is because they don't actually matter on the scale of the universe. You know, technology and all these things aren't going to alter the path of the universe. They only alter our life. Yeah. So that's why we can create whatever we want in this world and attract and manifest whatever we want in this world, because it's all stuff we've created anyway that we're
Absolutely.
attracting.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You know, it's all our own
Absolutely.
creation. And if there was
If
another
we
Big
cannot,
Bang, all those
if
things would
we,
be so unconsequential. It was pointless.
if we cannot manifest those things we cannot imagine, because if something we can imagine, it is a possibility there. This is simple. It looks like a very profound idea, like out of this world woo woo kind of thing, but my imagination is actually connected to, dependent on this possibility, the possibilities this universe actually provides us. So my imagination is also into this particular area. So if I can imagine, it means that I can manifest. And again, by manifestation, I didn't mean that it's a creation. It's just getting aligned with it. That thing is already been created. That situation, that person, that particular whatever I want to manifest is already created. All I need is just to get aligned with this by making choices, deliberate choices to go towards that.
Yeah, really. And deliberate
Yes.
conscious choices actually is the thing I like to say.
Yes.
Conscious choices, like really thinking it through before you decide. And yeah, I mean, the comments have gone mad. So sorry if I'm not getting to your comments. There's 39 more comments here. So it's really good. So here's an interesting thing. Now, have you ever looked into this? And I don't know if this is something that has just crossed my mind. Man has made a stop to evolution by keeping certain plants and fungi illegal. Now, this is how we can reprogram our mind and body. Have you ever looked into what the chances are that it may be something we ate increased our consciousness, or have you ever looked into those things?
Sorry. Please rephrase your question or just repeat it, because I was not
Yeah,
able to
sure.
understand.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's just that basically the consciousness started to evolve through eating fungi and other plants. Have you ever heard anything about that?
Yes. I was reading something about that. That okay, yes, these things are evolving. It is about like okay, when we are expanding, and then our orbit of our consciousness is getting expanded. Whatever is coming into that, it's also getting affected by. And it is not, maybe I just sometimes it's just a random idea that okay, those things might be always conscious. Now we are getting conscious enough to understand that they are also conscious. So we are being aware of their consciousness. It might not be the case that they are getting aware now. Who knows? They are getting conscious now. We are getting conscious enough to understand their consciousness now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the point, is that maybe many years ago, these were the solutions, and maybe they help many people accelerate the journey, although, you know, they're not really necessary these days. What's necessary is getting clear on yourself before you understand the other dimensions that are out there. And, you know, I personally have taken a lot of hallucinogenics when I was younger. And yeah, I mean, I'm very lucky I had what I was now known as an Illuminati mindset, which is um, if basically this is reality, and if I can't touch it, it doesn't exist, and all this stuff. And that kept me sane through some rather visual experiences. So, yeah, so Ramsey says that he thinks that as with 70% water, we should act as water, be fluid. We humans have learned to be too rigid. He still has said, ask me what you think I need to be asked. Okay, so yeah,
We
yeah, I
are
mean,
asking you.
Yeah, put the pressure on. What questions do I need to be asked? I've got a list that I was writing down this morning, actually. Funnily enough. Um, yeah, so the superpower is when you stop judging others too, lol. Authenticity. Yeah, exactly that. Yeah. So they actually they spelt out how I was speaking earlier. Very good of you. But yeah, 100%. Yeah. So superpower is, I think from my experience of judging people, is actually like you still feel you're being judged. That's the only reason you judge. Yeah.
Okay. So judging is something like, okay, the word itself is something like becoming a stigma that, okay, we should not judge. We do judge. This is how we understand things. We judge everything, actually. We go into detail and see that, okay, what are the intentions? And when we meet someone, we do that. The problem arises when we have some negative perspective about that, and we say that, okay, we should be precise in that we should negatively judge. We should not negatively judge anyone else. This is what we are trying to say, at least what I understand. But judging is something, it's a mechanism to understand things, to understand someone else, other entities. This is the mechanism. The problem is that we get caught up so much into this word judging. It becomes like a thing. Now, judging is a mechanism we have to understand the situation, the circumstances, the person, the intents. This is a mechanism. The problem arises when we start negatively judging, when we start doubting other people. The problem is that we mix up judging and doubting. Doubting is something else. If I'm doubting about your intent, then it's a different deal. If I'm judging something, I'm trying to communicate with it. I'm trying to create a pathway to communicate with that. So judging is not negative for me.
Yeah, it's like assessing or analyzing. Yeah.
Yes.
And I think judging is definitely probably the wrong word. I would say it's criticizing is actually
Exactly.
the
Yes.
word that people are often using as judging. And I think with criticizing, there's often a lot of programmed behavior behind criticism.
Yes. And
Everybody's
sometimes
like that type of person, that kind of thing.
Yes, it's not a big deal to use a different word, but it becomes a big deal when people start mixing up the concept behind the word. So the value in the concept. So the concept, as you were saying, criticizing, and I say that, okay, yes, doubting someone's intent is actually, we should not do this. We should not doubt their intent. We can judge their actions. This is how we will understand. This is how we will preempt. We can judge their actions, their gestures, but we must not actually doubt or criticize their intent. So the clarity, again, it's the limitations of language and the usage of language also.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So it's more the loose use of language. So tons and tons. Most people really good feedback. Everybody's loving everything. Now, Ramsey said something. Consciousness is 90% unconscious. Now, I'm not going to go that far. I want to ask a question about this. Do you think anyone can ever be 100% conscious?
This question in itself is funny, because when we talk about, because I shared with you that I was just banging my head or like, okay, what is consciousness? Why I'm not able to understand that? And then when I actually able to understand something, I start exploring, and I realized that, okay, everybody's calling the hard question. Why the hard question? Because consciousness is actually, we cannot define in words, because it's a very complex idea, because it's not a noun. We can define nouns, but when it comes to a verb, which is experience, we do experience that. It is actually not a noun. So we use it as a noun, but it's a verb. So when it comes to experience, again, it comes to like, okay, individuals. Okay, my experience is different and your experience is different. And of course, also, I was listening to a professor who was saying that another professor, he was quoting someone, that if we can expand human mind at the size of a mill and walk inside, we will still not be able to find consciousness as something, and we cannot be able to define consciousness, because it's a very difficult concept, because still we are struggling with that what actually it is. So we cannot say with with definiteness that, okay, this is what it is, how much it is. It's completely out of question. These things are will come later when we will be able to define. Now we can just relate to this idea. We cannot define it, because I don't know, because if I will go in detail, it will get very complex, because I'm still reading about that. I'm still learning, it's still trying to figure out what it is. So, and believe me, it is very complex. It is very complex.
So yeah, I mean, I think the way we talk about conscious, because you've got obviously in English, conscious and unconscious. And unconscious is when you hit your head and you fall on the floor or you end up in a coma. So a lot of people are like, of course I'm conscious. When we are all conscious to certain extents. I think conscious to me is a level of awareness. It's becoming more aware of who we are, going back to authenticity again, going back to understanding all the things that are going on around us in our lives. And the greater the understanding we have of something, the more conscious we become about it. Is kind of the way I look at it, because people can be conscious about themselves, but unconscious about their friend, unconscious about enemy, unconscious about work. There's so many things. And as we understand different things, we become more conscious, which is just another way of becoming more aware. And I've even gone as far as looking at what Freud termed the subconscious, and this is thanks to John, and what other people just call the conscious. Right, unconscious, not the subconscious, the unconscious. And in a lot of respects, what the subconscious or unconscious appears to be, from my perspective, is all of the programming we put in without the filter, before 7 years old, basically. So the subconscious is where loads of beliefs get formed before we're able to actually consciously filter them or make a choice ourselves. And raising our consciousness is digging back through all of them until they're all uncovered and resolved. And that then gives us access to all of the neural pathways in our brains. So, because when we're blocking things and not resolving things, all we're doing really is blocking neural pathways, from my understanding of it. So all we do is we shut the doors, right? Don't go back up that neural pathway again. All right. When really we just need to resolve it and go, actually, now I can go back up that neural pathway and it's not triggering this emotion in my body anymore. So that's kind of like my thoughts on consciousness. It's just great gaining a larger awareness of things, and we can never be 100% conscious because there's so much. And when I talk about consciousness in this respect, is like, well, what we call understanding, does the universe even have that? Does the universe even really know how it works, or does it just work? It's like, does it just keep going?
I personally feel that the universe actually is the biggest and the only example of just being, because universe doesn't, at least according to our understanding, it doesn't feel those emotions like happy or sad and all these things. It just exists. And this existence, that's why I feel that, okay, when people say that, okay, we have to just be, even my name, sometimes the short initials like, okay, be. So just be. When we will just even try to experience just being, just exist, we will not have any other sensation like happiness, like sadness, like anger, or anything. It will be complete absence of all these things. So for me, universe is the only example, the only and the true example of existence. It doesn't feel like, okay, it doesn't need to be conscious or anything. It just exists.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I mean, that's why it's hard for us to conceive what just being is, because it feels like we couldn't do it to be emotionally numb. And should we do it? Are we we here to experience? You see, aren't we?
Exactly. We should not do this.
Yeah, it's the goal is just to perceive things in the best way possible. And I think, like, we use the words sad and happy. If a sad thing happens, it's normal to grieve. It's not normal to get stuck in it. Yeah. It's normal to have negative emotions or sad emotions. Let's not call them negative. It's normal to have sad emotions, to let them flow, and then you'll appreciate happier ones at a later date.
So these are the perks of growth. These emotions, these sensations in human being, actually, these are the perks of growth, because we strive for growing. We are curious beings. we want to explore outer planets. We want to explore what is happening. We want to explore other people also, like, okay, what's going on in your mind? I want to understand what is your awareness. So these things are actually like striving for learning more and more and more. And these all those emotions and feelings are just perks of these things. This gesture, this curiosity we have, existing, just being is, it's a very sorry to say that, it's a difficult idea, because if you are able to, I'm quoting someone who says that if you are able to describe what actually just being is, it means that you are not experiencing it.
You weren't experiencing it.
Yes, because it is complete absence of all the emotions, feelings, understanding, just existence. If you are able to describe it, you haven't experienced it yet.
Nice.
Because
Okay.
in that moment you were aware, you were conscious, and our consciousness is also about feelings, that I'm conscious about my climate, my surroundings, my being. So if I'm conscious, it means that I'm feeling all those, observing all those sensations, all those emotions and feelings, which might be subtle, which might be overwhelming, but they're present and I was observing them. So if I'm doing that, it means that I was not just being or just existing.
Yeah.
I was experiencing all those things. So
it's just nearly, it's impossible for us to do, really, isn't it? To just be like the universe, to just have everything happening for us. I mean, where would the fun be in that if you were not fully able? Yeah, exactly. Where would the fun be? Now, there's a lot of comments. I'm not going to be able to read them all. We're actually already at an hour and a half now. I hope you're okay for time. So there's one thing it said, Ramsey said again, if we work on ourselves, then others, more than others, all would go right. Well, I think you can't. One of the things I was really lucky to learn when I was younger is you can't change other people. They have to want to change themselves. But then one of the things that I live by is if everybody made themselves happy, then why would we need to make others happy? You know, so I live by that, you know, and that's why I believe that this is the answer, and this is why we do all this. If we all learn how to make ourselves happy, why would we have to make anyone else happy? Well, we wouldn't. And I do have to put a pinch of salt on that when I say happiness isn't at the expense of others. Okay, so people always come back with this smart answer, and they're like, yeah, but if everybody made themselves happy, then maybe we wouldn't be. No, it's like if we made ourselves happy at the expense of other people, then that's not real happiness anyway.
I was asking Sil this question in the beginning when I joined Way of Impeccability, that what is happiness? Because in my mind, I was so irritated by this idea that we should always be happy. And I was like, how can I crack a 5-inch smile when I'm having a bad time? Come on, guys, it's completely out of my understanding. So I was irritated by all those spiritual ideas of being always happy, always being happy. And Sil just said the one simple sentence, and that was like, wow. He says, Beena, being happy doesn't mean always cheerful. And I was like, oh my God, I was assuming that being happy means being cheerful. And that was like, oh my God, why I was feeling irritated with all those people. Because he says that you might enjoy, you might feel happy while you are reading a very sad story. Still, you are enjoying that because you are enjoying, you are happy. So it's happiness is just a contentment in ourselves. It's not a cheerfulness, joyfulness. We assume that by being happy, I need to just smile always. No. Being happy is just being satisfied, being content.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's again, having overcome depression and like started off by spending many years trying to only be positive. And it definitely changed my chemical balance. But if we're always trying to be what we call cheerfully happy all the time, then we're not experiencing other emotions and we're probably blocking them up inside of us. We have to have that full spectrum to the point where I appreciate feeling the right emotions at the right time. You know, I'm not a big fan of anger, I have to admit, but I appreciate, you know, okay, something sad happened and I feel sad. I appreciate being able to have that experience. You know, I'm not, you know, I appreciate going through those things. So there's a ton of things here. And
Not all of us can be a Deepak Chopra and always having a subtle smile on their face. No offense to Deepak Chopra, but this is something impossible for everyone because it's just fake for me. This
yeah,
is fake for me. I will
yeah,
acknowledge my anger, my resentment if I'm having anger, if I'm having, but by acknowledging that the means doesn't mean that, okay, I'm going to pursue that. I'm going to follow that cueing and get involved into that. I'm going to act accordingly. No, acknowledging that, yes, right now I'm feeling something. I'm just acknowledging, I'm accepting that, yes, right now I'm not feeling those things, but I'm going to act accordingly. No, this is not my choice. I'm not going to just go into and get involved in fight with anyone. I might feel angry. Okay, yes, I do feel anger right now, but I'm not going to punch anyone's face. This is
yeah,
actually
yeah. You
following
see,
the
this is
cueing.
this is where the karma comes into it, and the conscious
Yes,
choices is like,
yes,
I think like there's, and again we go back to the generational trauma that we believe that violence actually solves anything. I mean, I watched a really interesting program the other day about oh sorry, it was a podcast with Aubrey Marcus, and he was interviewing this guy that channels spirit, and one of the questions he asked was, about violence, and this and spirit replied that there's no point to fight for spirit. For example, the term spirit warrior is like quite contradictory because spirit will always be. Yeah. However, as a human on Earth, if it's a survival case, then yeah, you need to be a warrior. You need to fight and be aggressive. But if it's
yes.
survival, only if it's survival and nothing else, not status, not prove your point, not all these things that people tend to get into arguments about. So there's tons of stuff going on. Is there anything specifically you want to talk about that we haven't covered today?
This is something, okay, just about because my astrology moon letters, which I write on the new moon and on the full moon, though I try to make it more easy and more explain that, okay, how I actually do that. So I want to just mention something about that. Why I called it abstract astrology, because I do use some other mediums also, other than just considering astrology. It is also about, because for me, as per my understanding, everything evolves. And so the astrology or any other medium or any other mechanism also, because it depends on our own awareness with whom you are talking with. So if I'm addressing people who are aware, so they don't want to know that, okay, I'm going to win a lottery today or not, or my wife is going to fight with me or not, but they want to know that what energy level and where I need to project myself in a certain way. So that's why I write those letters. They are in alignment with the moon because it's emotion, it is connected to our emotional and subconscious mind, but they are more than that. So this is something I was keen to explain, that my letters are not just astrology based. It is more on awareness, but it is aligned with astrology also. That's why I call
Awesome.
myself a elected astrologer.
Yeah, and I love that. And then we didn't touch on astrology because we got so involved in the
Yes.
universe and consciousness and everything. So I'm glad you mentioned that. And for anybody watching, you can find Beena's link in the description for the events, and she does regular posts, which I highly recommend. I love reading her moon posts and her astrology posts, and they're very informative and aligned with what's going on in my life, which is always a win. Hey, I always like that one. And that's actually when you talk about astrology and following the path. This is how I've always seen astrology: is that when you're in sync with, or you can see a synchronicity in the message, then you're doing things well. When you're completely out of sync with the astrologer's message, then maybe you're off track a little bit. That's kind of what I've always gone through my whole life, is that, okay, I can really see what this is talking about here. That's good. I'm doing things the way I should. Right. Watch out for that. When it's the days or weeks or months where you're like, no, none of this means anything to me, it's because you're probably stagnant. It's the best. Well, that's from my experience.
The interesting thing about astrology is that it's an extreme behavior from both sides. People who follow and who do astrology, they are like completely into that thing, that they say that everything is coming from that. And people who are against it, they say that, okay, why this planet who is 1,000 miles away can affect me, exactly as the sun is 1,000 miles away, but it's still actually it help you to harvest your crops and all these things, and moon also. So it is about energy. Everything is coming back to the energy. All the planets, all the stars, everything, they have a specific energy. And it depends on us how we internalize all those messages, those energies into our life. If I am not going to be in that mindset or in that state of being where I can internalize all those messages, I can, of course, there are always some other mechanism. The tree outside your door is also have energy and affecting you, not in an overwhelming way, but it has its own energy. Your house has its own energy. Everything is energy. When we say that, why we discard the planets, I don't know. I'm not understanding this. Everything has its energy. And because they are so humongous kind of being, so they have this enormous energy. And with the two effect, we can channelize those energy. We can internalize. How we internalize, it depends on us. We are not helpless into this. No, we are not completely like, okay, now the Saturn is going retro and it is going to ruin my life and I cannot do anything. No, you always can do.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that thinking that's going to ruin your life. It's the thinking that's going to ruin your life and not the planet. Definitely. Yeah. Oh, that's absolutely awesome. So there's been some amazing comments. So still put sobriety, for instance, is not cheerful, but it's deeply positive in a meta understanding of positivity. Yeah. And there's been a lot of people really enjoyed the show. Kimbo said somewhere here, very enlightening show. So she's really, and I've really enjoyed the show. But I think we're going to wrap it up today because people are dropping off and we've been on for nearly 2 hours, if that's all right with you. So awesome. So thank you so much, Beena.
Thank you so much, Matt. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone, whoever is going to, was making comments. I was not able to see that, but thank you so much for being here to support me and support Matt. And we are looking forward for more from your side.
Yeah, thank you all again for showing up. It's been a great show. The comments have been through the roof. I've had trouble keeping up with them, to be honest. So I hope we answered all your questions. If not, just tag me or Beena in the question you want answered, and we'll answer it at a later date. So
yes, please, we will share. We will share our understanding.
Awesome. Thank you all. Have a great rest of your week. And don't forget, we're back on Thursday with the Conscious Creators Community Show, an hour earlier than this one. And then I'm also on next week for Food for Thought, and looking forward to seeing you all then. Bye.